so I'm going to address a common issue with the Trinidad carburetor. Typically what will happen is, like recently I had someone come and they picked up their bike. It was working fine. I got them to test it around. If it's loaded and it's sideways, you hear that jingling? That would be the float needle, and the jet all kind of jostling. What'll happen though is even if it's empty or full with fuel, fuel can go back through the jet. It can go into the cylinder. In any case, it allows the jet to jam, or excuse me, the float needle to jam into the jet. This is the jet. This is the main jet right here. Okay, so if it's just not starting, it's not a big deal. If you see fluid, oil, like if you see gas coming out of these holes or from down here, that's because the jet is jammed in an open position. So fuel can kind of just dump in here and it's going to overflow, obviously, and then it'll come out here. So we need to unjam the float needle. So what we're going to do, assuming you haven't taken it off already, you just loosen this off. It's as simple as that. You may need to take like I was going to say, you may need to take a like pliers to loosen off this cap. In any case, at least when it comes from me. Normally there's a cable attaching all this, so it'll come all as one unit. So don't worry about that. And then obviously when you disconnect the fuel hose, shut the fuel off at the gas tank, kind of have like a drip pan that you can put the hose into so that it's not making a mess. In any case, now you've got your carburetor. Okay, so the float at this point is still full. You'll see the drain plug. You're just going to loosen that just like an oil change. And it's not full, but as soon as you take it out, boom, have a jerry can or like a drip pan, like I said, ready so that you can dump it in there. So we're just gonna put that to the side. Once it's done, you're going to remove these top screws here. So this one and this one, so the two there. And just loosen them off. Especially off of a new carburetor, I don't imagine there's something wrong with the jet. Like I had somebody come in with a used bike. Somebody had put it together, but the jet was loose. Excuse me, the jet, this brass piece was like literally hand loose. I could loosen it off with my fingers. In that case, the float needle can actually dig a groove and cause it to stick. So I had to end up replacing the jet. But in your case, it's brand new. It just came out of my shop. I don't imagine that's going to be an issue. So here you can see the float bowl. And we're gonna take the gasket out carefully. Don't tear it. And here we have the float needle shaft, the actuator, and the needle itself. So the float needle goes in here, and it's opening and closing basically every 1 or 2 strokes to let fuel in. Obviously, because if it's closed when the float is up, meaning the float bowl is full, fuel will get sucked in through the jet, and then when it starts to empty the float, the needle comes down, fuel comes in, boom, and it just does this cycle. But if it's stuck like this, well, let me purposefully jam it. Where did they just put it here? So interestingly enough, these have a specific orientation that these have to go in. So like if it's this way or this way, in any case, it can get stuck. But to break it loose, you're just gonna get like a wire brush thing. And about the internal like side wall, that's not my problem. As long as I don't get the surface that the needle touches. You can see if you look closely, that clear, that sort of shiny end, that's where it actually seals off. See that? So I'm not concerned if I get like around the sidewall. Actually, I want this to loosen whatever's in there. So I'm gonna take a circular miniature bastard file and just lightly course it. Just take some parts cleaner, clean it out. Just make sure that's clean. Now when you put this back together, you're going to attach this in like that. And this goes in like this. And you'll see the shaft holes will kind of line up. This shaft is not press fit. You can literally slide it in. It's held in place by this. So notice how it'll just kind of sit in there nice. So that width holds this little needle in place. Great. And we're just going to slide this in like so. It's like King Arthur's sword. You got to be gentle. You don't have to force it. If your fingers are too fat like mine, you can't get in there. There it is. We're going to put the carburetor flow gasket back on. Don't forget to put float bowl in there. Just kind of put it on like that. Hold it together. Then you can put the screws in. Doesn't have to be super tight, just snug enough that it won't come loose. You've got lock washers underneath these screws, so they'll hold it in place. Great. Then you can attach your drain plug, snug it up. All right. Try to keep it upright here. You'll notice a gold pin sticking out right there. See that pin? We're gonna make sure that this groove, this one, all the way down, is lined up with it. And it slides right in like that. This is the main jet. That just slides in the middle. But again, this should all be one unit. Like that all should be together. So just literally take the whole unit as it kind of comes out like that, line up that groove, and then just thread it on all the way. That's it. That should solve your issue. If it doesn't, there's already something wrong with this jet. In that case, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't necessarily my fault. It's just a manufacturer defect. So come by and we can get you a new jet.